Jimmy K here, Metal Voice. Look at this. The Metal Voice shirts are now on sale. Just go to the video description to find out on how you can purchase one. Metal! Welcome to the Metal Voice. Today on the show, guitarist extraordinaire, the one, the only, the guy from Ozzy, Bandlands. Maybe a little bit of Dio there. Rough cut. Mickey Ratt. I mean, the guy's done it all. The one, the only, Mr. Jakey Lee. What's happening?
Nothing is happening. Well, everything's happening. New record.
New record is out. So the new record, it's called Patina. New bassist, new drummer, and of course, Darryl James Smith, you know, the singer from the first album, right? So
Yes, backed by popular demand.
at least you can laugh about it, right?
Yeah. I just hope it didn't come off too sarcastic.
No, it's all good. So tell me about, I mean, I heard the first album, there was a lot of guest stars on it, guest vocalists like Paul Diano, I remember. What is the difference in terms of musical style from this album to the debut? And I know what the differences are, but for people out there who haven't heard the album yet.
This one is, I think, a little more what people were probably expecting from me initially. The first record was, a little out of my wheelhouse. It was just the way it was done, and it was interesting for me to do it that way because Kevin Churko produced, and it's the more modern way of recording, where it's individuals. You put the click track down, and then anybody can play against that click track, right? Like I would have guitars that I put down for song ideas that I had, and I didn't need a drummer, I didn't need a bass player, I didn't need a singer, because I had the click track, and I played to that all on my own, and then a drummer would come in. Kevin would find a drummer to play on the song, and then he would play to that, and again with the bass player and vocals and all that. So it was much more of a individual performance for everybody that played on it, and then it's sort of pieced together at the end. This record was done the way I always done it in the past with Ozzy in Badlands, where I would come up with the riff with the band present and plugged in, and we jam on it and figure out the right parts for everything together. So I think this record sounds much more cohesive. It's more organic, more like there was actually a band involved in the whole process. And I think that's probably, other than the fact that everybody plays from front to back on it. Darren's the singer on all the songs, and there's no guest spots on this one. Other than that, I think the process is what differentiates this album from the previous one.
But there also is the musical direction. I found out it was more, what would I call it, rock tunes or hard rock tunes on the first one. This one you're dipping into more psychedelic. I see some of the beats are really, different tempos on the beats, different styles, more psychedelic hard rock blues. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think you pretty much nailed it on the head there. It's, like I said, the first Red Dragon Cartel record was Kevin Churko production, and he does Five Finger Death Punch. He did Ozzy. He's more in that metal kind of vein, where I don't think I really ever was. Well, in Ozzy, I had to be, but ever since Ozzy, I love exploring different musical genres and not like say Richie Blackmore, where
where he's going off on another tangent.
Yeah, where if I hadn't heard any Richie Blackmore in the last 30 years, and I said, "Damn it, I wonder what he's up to," and I bought his record, I would be shocked as shit. I'd be like, what the fuck is this? Not that it's bad. It's just such a, you know, it just, well, you wouldn't expect it.
No, I think it's bad. Actually, I can't listen to it. But that's just me. That's just me.
I couldn't listen to a lot of it, and like I said, it's not because I think it's bad. It's just not my cup of tea.
No, I agree.
But where was I going with this?
I don't know. You're just saying that how the musical stylings is different.
Yes. I love exploring little. I like a basic rock format, and then I love to see how kinky I can make it. You know, musically, as far if you're expecting a chorus to come up, I like to throw something else in there. If you think you know the direction of the song, I like to take a left turn. But it's all within this umbrella of still being rock. And I don't think it's, I don't want to scare people by saying that I do a little jazz riffing in there. And it shouldn't, because Tony Iommi did a lot of that, you know, and he was in the heaviest band in the world. And that probably was an influence on me, his little jazz stylings that he threw in there. But yeah, I love to sprinkle all the songs with different sounds and different, something you wouldn't expect.
So you have also a North American tour coming up, right? It's starting in end of February, around there. What can the fans expect in regards to like a set list? So you're going to be, of course, you're going to be playing the new album, but I mean, are you going to be doing the Ozzy stuff, the Badlands? I mean, what's the mix up here? What's the set list look like?
It's going to be the complete Bark at the Moon album done live.
No, don't scare me. Don't scare me. Don't get me excited. Sorry.
That actually would be awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm just being a wise ass. It's actually I've decided I'm not going to do any Ozzy songs. No, I had to do it on the first RDC tour because the way the first album was done with different singers, two of them being women, and the production style of it, we could only do half the record maybe live, and I had to go into the back catalog to fill out the rest of the set. And, you know, it'd been 30 years since I played any Ozzy song. So I thought it would be fun, but it personally, it just wasn't as fun as I thought it would be. It almost felt dishonest for some weird reason for me. I mean, I know I'm the guitar player on those two records of Ozzy's, and I wrote the bulk of the music, but it just felt like those songs belonged to Ozzy. You know, they're Ozzy's songs, and it never felt honest playing them live with RDC. And I've decided I'm not going to do any more Ozzy songs live, unless it's with Ozzy. You know, if we can work that shit out, that would be a hoot.
You know, but just saying that, my buddy Martin Popoff, the journalist.
I just talked to him.
Yeah, you know, Martin. You know, we did a top 10 Ozzy albums, and he put Bark at the Moon as his favorite.
Really?
His favorite all-time album. Oh yeah, and I would put it up there too. I put it like third, the first Randy Rhoads, and no offense, but I mean, I would say it's my third favorite Ozzy album because I love Randy Rhoads so much. I mean, people love Bark at the Moon. I saw you on Bark at the Moon when you toured with Ozzy, and I always wanted to know, and you could just answer this question or not. There was a little small guy coming to Ozzy every 15 or 20 minutes with a little pillow in his hand and a little pill like a Tic Tac. What was that? What on earth was that?
His drugs. No.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember there was. What was his name? His name was Tony. I don't remember pills or anything like that. I remember
he came with a glass of water and a pill.
Yeah. He would bring him out water. And he was dressed like a knight half the time, wasn't he?
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes a knight, sometimes a monk. I don't know what
Maybe
that
it was a
was
Tic Tac.
about.
I don't know. I'm just saying I was standing front row when you were there with Ozzy on the Bark at the Moon tour, And this little guy come out with a pillow and a glass of water and a little pill. And this was being, every 10 minutes he was doing this. I go, what on earth is he giving him? But anyways.
I think maybe it was bat heads. I don't know.
Maybe it was like tranquilizers. I don't know. Anyways, whatever it was, it was. All right, so let's get back to this. So your set list, no Ozzy. Are you going to play some Badlands?
Yeah. I still feel comfortable doing Badlands. And I think Darren's voice suits it, It's another thing with Ozzy. Darren never really quite sounded right singing Ozzy. But I'm not putting it on Darren. It's mostly me. Like I said, it's
okay.
Uncomfortable for me to play Ozzy songs for some reason. And but we'll throw some Badlands in there. I'm hoping we'll learn at least half a dozen Badlands songs, and then do different ones every night. So it's not the exact same set list. I think it's much more entertaining to surprise people with which Badlands we're going to play. But we'll be doing mostly this new record because of the way it was written, with the band. I think almost every single song on there is going to be suitable to play live, and a lot of them are going to be really, really fucking cool live. Because it's one thing to listen to a record and appreciate how, hopefully powerful it sounds. But once you're in a room where the band is cranked, it just hits you in the face. Songs like Havana or The Luxury of Breathing, those songs are just really going to fucking be cool live.
Yeah. Told all my friends and fans and followers that I'd be talking to you. And man, oh man, I'm getting question after question to ask you. Is it okay if I ask you some questions?
Sure.
From the fans?
I'm curious. Yeah. Let's see it. Let's hear them.
Well, all right. So, autobiography. Will you ever write an autobiography?
I've been asked to. I do have interesting stories, but I don't. I just don't think I'm important
I'd buy it.
enough.
I'd buy it.
Yeah, I would buy it too to see what I have to say, but it feels what is it? Narcissistic in a way to me.
Okay.
To do that, yeah. And I've recently been approached about having a documentary done, and they coming on the road for the early part of the tour, and then going back in my history, and that makes me uncomfortable too. It just seems very self-serving. The answer to your question is I doubt it. Although I do have some pretty interesting stories.
I'd like to read it. I think a lot of people would. I think there's a lot of demand. Like there'd be a lot of demand for that. But that's just me. That's the vibe that I get from the community. That's all.
Yeah.
What about your?
And it sounds like a lot of work.
Well, you could always get someone to write it for you, and you could just dictate it. But we could talk about that later, right?
Okay.
Your time in Dio. I know everybody asks you about this. I mean, how long were you actually in Dio, and how much did you actually write and perform with the band? Because there's just all kinds of talk here.
Yeah, I'd say it was 4 to 6 weeks was how long I was in it, and it was the cool thing about that is because I hadn't played with anybody of that caliber yet. I played with Ratt and Rough Cut and some other bands, but Dio was the first big kahuna, that I was playing with, and it was just fun because it was in his garage, and Vinny was set up with his drums, and I set up with my Marshall, and then Ronnie was playing bass, which I had remembered reading that he was a bass player in Elf, I think. But it threw me that Ronnie had a bass on, and he's plugged into a stack, and he was going to play bass while we jammed. And the most interesting part about that was that there was no PA set up. And we played loud. I mean, Vinny is a hard-hitting drummer, and I know I had my Marshalls on 10 in this garage, and he would just sing into the air. No microphone, no PA.
That's cool.
And you could hear him. You could hear that little fucker belting these songs out, and it was so impressive. But yeah, I was in the band for 4 to 6 weeks. We worked on a couple of songs. I know one of them was Holy Diver. Yeah. I didn't write anything. It was all, Ronnie had a ton of ideas, and we'd work on his ideas. So I didn't actually write anything. And I guess towards the end there, he just didn't like my style of playing, I guess. Because I know Holy Diver, in particular, was a lot. I played a lot different than Vivian did. I did a lot of. It was much more intricate rhythmically, because more so than soloing, I love figuring out rhythm parts. I like different chord variations, and for me, that's a lot of fun. And so it was a lot different. And in the end, I think Ronnie decided he wanted a more European style of guitar playing, a little simpler as far as the chordal work, and maybe a less Eddie Van Halen-ish, I guess, maybe. Yeah. But and I did not write. What is that one that people
Don't Talk to Strangers?
Don't Talk to Strangers.
I wasn't going to ask you. I was not going to ask you. I just wanted to see.
I did not write that. I had nothing to do with that. I know it's on Wikipedia as if it was a fact, and I think I watched some guy on YouTube the other day, and he was talking about me, and he said JQD insists to this day that he wrote Don't Talk to Strangers, and I never said that. I don't. Yeah. It's one of those things that has just become a fact now, despite the fact that I never said that, and I still do not claim to have written anything. I think it's just the 16th note rhythms that are reminiscent of Bark at the Moon that people think that, but no, I didn't write that.
But I mean, you did play along on Holy Diver, right? I mean, I'm not saying you wrote it, I'm not saying you took the riff, but you helped build the arrangement. Is that what it is?
Yeah. It was basically, I was someone to fill in that audio spectrum of guitar while Ronnie worked on the song, because he had it in his head. And I think he knew where he wanted it to go and where he wanted changes, so I was just there to help him.
And I get a lot of questions on Bark at the Moon. I've talked to Bob Daisley, by the way. We've had a lot of conversations. I've interviewed him, and we went into real depth. Why didn't you, right off the bat, get credit for the work that you put in on that album?
Well, I was young, and in those days it was, it was a much more secluded world that you lived in. You didn't have the internet, you couldn't just look shit up. Most of your knowledge as far as how business goes was just from somebody saying something. And I trusted people. I was told from the beginning that I would get my fair share of writing credit and publishing, and I took them at their word, which in the end was a mistake. Yeah. But no, it was never about the money. I mean,
But did Bob pull you aside and say, "Look, Jake, I'm 2 albums already in with these guys, and I'm having issues"? Did he ever pull you aside and say something? I didn't ask him this, by the way.
No, not that I can recall. It was just about writing music with me and Bob. No. Okay. No, he didn't. Although I guess, I knew that he had problems with the first 2 records. as far as being paid and getting what was due to him. I sort of assumed that he sorted that all out, and that's why he was back. So if anything, Bob's presence there meant to me that everything was okay.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, it was never about the money. When I first joined the band, I might have this wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was a small amount, but I'm pretty sure I got paid $100 a week when I first joined for the European tour, and you know, it would incrementally go up. I think I did 2 weeks where it was I was getting paid $100 a week because they weren't sure about me. Why would they be? And then it doubled. It would keep doubling, you know, the further I got along. Then I get 200 a week, 400, 800, until I proved myself. They didn't, you know, I was paid very small amount, and I didn't care. You know, I was
You're at the big time.
Yeah, I was in L.A. I wasn't even in the band anymore. You know, I'd quit Ratt. I'd quit Rough Cut. I was looking for a band to be in, and so, you know, being diligent and working, I went to every bar every night looking for a band and drinking. And I didn't see anything. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So I went from that and having no money to being in Ozzy Osbourne. I didn't give a shit about the pay. And I didn't really give a shit about the pay for Bark of the Moon either. I just wanted credit. And I, you know, I probably shouldn't say specifics, but I remember I was going to get $5,000 to record Bark at the Moon, which is, God, I mean, it all goes full circle. That's kind of what I made off of Patina. But I was going to get paid $5,000 and get writing credit and publishing. And I was fine. You could pay me $1,000. I don't care. I'm going to do this. But when I finally got the contract, they threw in another 10 to make up for the writing and the publishing, which in retrospect was like a penny. You know.
Yeah, but nobody. But you know what Bob told me? Bob told me nobody knew what was going to happen with this record, right? Rhodes, Randy Rhodes dies, and nobody knew if this album was going to do well or was going to tank.
Yeah, no, it was a big question mark because
That's right.
Randy was such an integral part of Ozzy's solo stuff. Yeah, and I always thought that the guitar mix on Bark of the Moon was not as in your face as the previous two albums, and I always felt like that was Ozzy's lack of confidence in whether or not I was going to be able to replace Randy Rhodes. That, you know, he wouldn't, until it was proven, he didn't know if I was going to. So I felt like he kind of pulled me down in the mix a little bit, and the guitar isn't as dominant as it was on the first two records.
How much did Ozzy really contribute? And I mean, I think Bob told me, and again, this is a year ago I did an interview with him. You know, he contributed the melodies to the songs, which I guess is considered a writing credit, right? But how much did how much did he really contribute?
No, he wasn't there that often. But he's really good at melodies. He would, you know, he'd pop in. We'd be working on songs. Bark of the Moon, for example. I had the main riff, the chorus, and the verses. Daisley came up with the bridge section, which really helped. Bob taught me a lot about songwriting. Because before that, I was an L.A. guy, you know, very Ratt, very Motley Crue. Here's a verse, here's a chorus, here's a verse, here's a chorus. Let me do a solo over a verse, and then we'll go out on a chorus. Bob would put in these little bits and pieces that just made songs so much more interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the solo section would come up, and he'd say, "No, we've already heard the verse. Let's go somewhere else." So he was really good with that. And we'd work on the songs, and then Ozzy would pop in. I don't know, towards the end of the night, say. And he was amazing at how fast the melody would just come to him.
Yeah,
He didn't have to work on it. He never did work on it. It would just, he'd hear the music, he'd grab a mic, and he had a melody right away. It was like that with Bark at the Moon. And he wouldn't have any lyrics. He would just, kind of hum the melody along. But he would almost always come up with the catchphrase, with the title of the song, like Bark at the Moon.
Yeah.
He just sort of sang, na 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 na, and Bark at the Moon. He would come up with a catchphrase, and then Bob would know what to base his lyrics on. But Ozzy did contribute. He wrote the melodies, and I'll go back to Bark at the Moon. He came up with the middle eight part, because we had the song, and he said, how about if in the middle we do something that goes, da-da, da-da. And I was like, oh, okay, how about these chords? Da-dam. And so he contributed minimally, but to the music, he did actually come up with the ideas for that too.
Okay, good to hear. What about, so at the end of the day, you put out this album, well, the album's about to be released, nobody knows what's going to happen, right? Everybody has high hopes, but nobody knows, as Bob told me. And then there's it's Ozzy, his name is on everything, like all music and lyrics by Ozzy Osbourne. When I bought this album, Jake, and I saw that, I go, how is this possible? It's just bizarre, right? I mean, I love Ozzy. I love his voice. Don't get me wrong. I love Ozzy. But you kind of think something's fishy there. How did you let that happen? How did you, was that part of the contract?
Yeah, it absolutely was.
But why? But why? Why did he want to claim everything? What's the motive?
For the money, really. I mean, then you get full rights to the publishing, and I didn't know this back then, but publishing is a lot of money. If I had to guess, I would say publishing on the song "Bark at the Moon" would have been, for my portion of it. And I'm lowballing here. I'd say $250,000. And like I said, I'm lowballing there. Just for that song, my not having publishing on it probably means there was $250,000 that Ozzy got instead of me, and so it's a lot of money, is what I'm saying. I'm not bitter about that.
No,
like
you
I
don't
said,
sound bitter at all. We're just talking about the history of Bark at the Moon, and what went down. I mean, to me, this is fascinating. I could talk to you all night about this, but I know I won't. Because I know you probably got other people to talk to. But I find this, because I grew up on this music, right? I was a teenager when you were playing, on stage with Ozzy, right? I was there, and of course, then you tour the Bark at the Moon, right? What was the vibe like? Was everybody depressed still because of Randy's passing? What was it, or was it upbeat?
No, it was pretty upbeat because the album did do well, and I think that was Ozzy's main concern. He was still a little hesitant. He's very other than biting heads off of things, he's very unadventurous. He wants to stick to what he knows is going to work, and because we hardly did any songs off that album. I feel like he still wasn't sure about it. So we did Bark at the Moon. I think we did Rock and Roll Rebel and Journey to the Center of Eternity. Those are the only 3 songs we played off the new album that we were supposed to be pushing, because he knew that the first 2 albums, people loved those, and Black Sabbath, people love those. He doesn't like to take chances that way. So other than the fact that we weren't playing very much of the Bark at the Moon album on stage, it was good. And we had Motley Crue opening, so they would always raise everybody's spirits with their party attitude.
And in Canada, you had Ratt opening up.
Oh, yeah. We had Ratt for a while. And that was fun, they were my buds. Warren, one of my oldest best friends, and so that was a lot of fun.
Now we go to the ultimate sin, right? Now you become, I guess you're still writing with Bob, right?
Yeah, not to the extent that we did on Bark at the Moon, but with Bark at the Moon, I came out to the Ridge Farm, and I had ideas in my head, and Bob and I would work on them.
Yeah.
For Ultimate Sin, we had a break, and Ozzy went into rehab. He went to the Betty Ford Clinic, so nobody was doing anything. So I bought one of those fancy new 4-track recorders that you could buy back then.
Yeah.
That recorded on cassettes, and I started writing. And I wrote most of the album on that 4-track recorder. And then when we finally got back together, after Ozzy got out of the clinic, I gave him to Ozzy and I gave him to Bob. And Bob helped me work on certain parts, but I'm pretty sure, really, musically, I wrote most of that, if not all of it, for Ultimate Sin.
So what was Ultimate Sin? I mean, what was the vibe, in the studio? Was it good, bad? I mean, did things go smoothly? I mean, because there must have been some breaking point between you and the band that you weren't aware of?
No, not at that point. No, in the studio it was, I did a lot of headbutting with Ron Nevison. Mm-hmm. In fact, he wanted to have me fired.
Why?
Because I'm notoriously late. Oh. And the very first day of recording guitars, I showed up about a half hour late, and he was not happy. He was not happy at all. That night, I got a call from Sharon, and she said, "Jake, can you please try to make it on time? Ron Nevison wants us to fire you." I said, "Fire me? I wrote the music. I'm the guitar player. Does he not understand what Ozzy Osbourne is?" And she said, no. He wanted to bring in a studio guitar player that he could rely on. And she said, "Of course, that's ridiculous, but please make it on time." And so I did. I did make it on time from there on out. But I had all my problems were with Ron Nevison. He wanted the studio cold because it felt like to him that it kept the musician sharp. To me, it felt like my fingers never warmed up. So we argued about the temperature. We argued about everything.
Were you happy with the results of the album at the end of the day?
Mostly. It had sort of a pop mix to it that I wasn't happy about. There was, the keyboards were a little higher up in the mix than I would have liked. The guitars were a little crisper sounding than I would have liked. In fact, the first mix of the record, I didn't even hear it, but Ozzy heard it, and he hated it. He said we're not a pop band. There's way too many keyboards, and he told Nevison that I had to be in the studio to remix the record, and it would have been a very keyboard-heavy record if not for that.
You know what's funny? Rudy Sarzo told me that Ozzy hated the mix of Diary of a Madman when he first heard it.
Oh,
is that bizarre?
See, that's my favorite Ozzy record.
It's a great album.
That's interesting. That's really interesting because
I hate it. This is horrible. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was so much better than the first one, and I loved the first one, but Diary of a Madman I thought was just a masterpiece.
Yeah, it's a great album. What about? Are there any unreleased songs or jams that no one's actually ever heard from those two albums?
No. There was nothing. There was if anything, there was what's his? Chris Tangarides was gonna be the first producer. He was lined up to produce Ultimate Sin, and we cut a 4-track demo with him somewhere in England, and can't remember which songs exactly were on it, but there's 4 songs with Chris Tangrides producing and mixing somewhere out there. Ozzy didn't like it, and that's when we went to Ron Nevison. Other than that, no, there weren't any other songs.
There must have been something for them to say, well, your services are no longer needed. I know it came, I know, there was no fax or whatever the case was. I know it was a dinner with Sharon that pretty much everybody knows. But
Yeah.
what was it at the end of the day? It must have been something. It's not your guitar playing, that's for sure, right? It's not your songwriting. What was it? I mean, 2 successful albums. What was it at the end of the day?
I think it was a combination of, let's say, three things. Ozzy and I mean, I loved Ozzy, still do. We never clicked on a personal level. I mean, there was never any, conflicts or arguments or anything like that, but we never bonded on a personal level. He didn't get my sense of humor.
Yeah.
It's very dry and sarcastic, and he just I would make jokes, and he would just look at me like, "Why did you say that?" So on a personal level, we never clicked. Like I said, it wasn't bad. It was never great. There's that, and I think he kind of missed that. He wanted a guitar player, and he got that with Zach. Somebody that he got along with and could hang out with. Me and Ozzy never hung out. There's that. It was me and Phil Suzanne. Mm-hmm. Ozzy and I, like I said, we never clicked, but we it wasn't a bad relationship. Me and Phil did not have a good relationship, and I know that when we were writing, which gets into the third reason I think I was fired, writing for the third record, I felt a little constrained musically, because there's parameters that you have to write for it to fit with Ozzy Osbourne. Mm-hmm. Basically, it has to be metal, and I was getting a little bored with that, and I wanted, why can't we just push it a little bit here? How about if we introduce something in this song where it's not metal and it gives it a nice contrast? I was writing along those lines, and Ozzy wasn't particularly thrilled with it. He'd say, "No, this is Ozzy Osbourne. It's not a blues band. It's not a jazz band. It's not fucking Frank Zappa." Although I never wrote anything that sounded like Zappa.
Sure.
But that, to him, that's what it sounded like. He knew what people wanted from him, and he wanted that. And I was trying to push it musically. And I know for a fact at the same time, because Randy Castillo told me that Phil wanted to be the main songwriter because Shot in the Dark was the big hit, and so he wanted to be the songwriter, and he's whispering in Ozzy's ear, "We don't need Jake. We'll just write a bunch of hits now because I'm writing the music." And so I think it was a combination of all those things. And as far as Phil is concerned, and I just got to say this because I know that he was at least partly instrumental in me getting fired because he wanted to be the main songwriter. He lasted in the band after I was out maybe 3 months before he got fired. And that's because I saved his fucking ass twice on tour. Twice on tour, Ozzy wanted to fire him because of his stage antics, whatever. Ozzy was adamant. He said, "Phil's out of the band. Fire him." And I talked him out of it twice. So the fact that he helped get me fired at the end, and then he only lasted a couple of months before he got fired, Karma, motherfucker.
Yeah. I mean, you must have been planning a third album in your head, right? Thinking, okay, what are we gonna do next time? There must have been some music going on in there. Did you capture any of that? Did you write it down? Did you put on your little 4-track tape or your Fostex or whatever it was at the time?
No. I lost all that shit a long time ago.
Okay.
And I doubt if Ozzy hung on to it. Yeah, I gave him demos, but
Sure.
and some of that musically probably showed up on the first Badlands record. Actually, now that I think about it, Hard Driver off the first Badlands
Cool.
was one of the songs that I was presented to Ozzy for the third record.
Wow, that's cool. How about, would you ever consider doing I don't know, I wouldn't call it a reunion, Badlands, but I don't know, go out there and play some gigs, with a fill-in singer. I mean, Ray Gillen is a difficult voice to to find somebody to match that caliber. But did you ever consider just maybe a few shows, a Badlands show, or what are
No,
your thoughts? No,
not at all.
let it rest.
I've been approached multiple times, and with money, which I don't, as I said before, I don't care. It's not like I hate money.
No,
I like money.
Yeah.
I like money. Money lets me order shit off Amazon, and then I get all happy when it comes to the door.
There you go.
But music to me is sacred, and I won't compromise it for any amount of money. And I don't think there is no Badlands without Ray.
Yeah, that's it.
It's just not right. I don't care how much money could be made, and I don't even care if I could find somebody that sounded just like Ray, like Journey.
Yeah.
They got that singer that he sounds just like Perry, but and good for them. It's a whole different thing than Badlands. Badlands was Ray, and even if I could find somebody that looked and sounded just like him, it's not Ray. Ray was an integral part of that band, and now that he's gone, there can never be another Badlands as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and just finishing up on Ultimate Sin, did you get paid for Ultimate Sin for your work that you did? Or was it just like the same deal as Bark at the Moon, or?
Oh, no. I got paid, yeah. In fact, I learned my lesson, and before I submitted a single song or anything, I said, I want a contract. And I want it in front of me, and I want it signed before we continue any further.
Okay.
So, yeah, I got paid. I got paid.
Good. Was it like a salary, or was it a continuous publishing and?
It was getting my share of the writing and getting my share of the publishing. In the end, I still get songwriting, but in the end, I sold my publishing after I got fired. I sold it back to the Osbournes because I just didn't want to deal with them, because they had the publishing company. Even though I had a share of the publishing, it was through their publishing.
And they would have to, and they would decide if they wanted to write you a check or not, if they felt like it.
Yeah. And if I was owed money, I would have to wait for it. I'd have to ask for it over and over again. And I didn't want to have to deal with that, for the rest of my life. So I sold them my publishing, and for very little money. But as I said, I didn't want that headache. I didn't want to have to beg for money that was owed me. And so, yeah, I don't make any money off Ultimate Sin since I got fired. But I got paid for the time I was in the band, yeah.
All right. So, which leaves, I guess, the last question. I had all these questions bundled together, by the way. So, Ratt, okay. I mean, is craziness happening in the Ratt family, and you were part of the beginnings. You must know the characters. You know Warren, you know Steven. What do you make out of all this?
Well, I think think that Ratt, and maybe it's because I'm a guitar player, but it's pretty well established that it's the guitar player and the singer pretty much makes up, let's say, at least 75% of what a band is. And there are exceptions to that. Led Zeppelin, for example. And I would even say Black Sabbath. Mm-hmm. You know, I loved 13, the album they did, but I really wish Bill Ward had been on it, you know? Because to me, Sabbath is all four of those guys. Same with Zeppelin. With Ratt, you know, well, Robin passed, so it's never going to be the original Ratt. With that in mind, you have to have Steven and you have to have Warren for it to be Ratt. You can replace the drummer, you can replace the bass player, in my opinion, but you have to have those two guys, and it just seems wrong that they're touring now without Warren and calling it Ratt. And on the other side, and as I stated before, Warren and we're best friends. We've been best friends for years and years and years. It never really felt like Ratt to me without Steven in it. When you know, when they were touring and Warren was playing guitar, it never really seemed like Ratt to me then either. I think you need the two of them for it to be Ratt, and that's what I think.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. That's the new album, Patina, November 9th on Frontiers. Everybody go pick it up. It's a great Christmas gift, as Christmas is coming around the corner. The guest.
Fuck that, it's a good Thanksgiving gift.
Or a Thanksgiving gift next week.
Bring it. When you go into somebody else's house for dinner and they prepared everything, don't bring wine. Just bring the new Red Dragon Cartel CD.